This is the plaintiff, Chris. He says he owns a restroom attendant service company that provides restroom attendants for upscale events like weddings and award shows. He hired the defendant, and she started working a nightclub. And when he told her he was rotating her to another venue to keep things fair regarding tips, she got nasty and hung up on him. He fired her. She refuses to return the $250 worth of supplies and uniforms she still has in her possession, and he's suing her today for the $443.75 he's owed. This is the defendant, Lorraine. She says the plaintiff is an unfair businessman who paid her no wages. All she earned were the tips. Some venues she would only make like $20 a night, and some, like the nightclub she got assigned to, she did much, much better. But the plaintiff wanted to move her back to a less tipping venue. She balked, and they ended their arrangement. Unfortunately, her truck was broken into. All of the plaintiff's supplies were stolen. She has a police report to prove it, and she owes him nothing. She's accused of a bathroom boondoggle. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $2,000 for pain and suffering.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff owns a high-end bathroom attendant service and says he fired the defendant and she won't return the uniform or other supplies. Now, the defendant is saying that the plaintiff is an unfair business person and she returned everything. It's the case of going to the bathroom is hard.
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Mr. Chris, talk to me. Tell me about your company, Indulgent Staffing.
It's a restroom attendant service. We service upscale restaurants, nightclubs, weddings, and so forth in the Los Angeles area.
Okay. So how many people do you have at any given point working for you?
Roughly 10.
All right. And then you have the contracts at several venues and you send people to the different venues?
Yes.
And how do you pay your employees?
It depends on the venue. If it's somewhere that the client does not want us to provide the supplies, then they're paid $15 an hour. If it's an ongoing nightclub or venue, then they're paid strictly in tips.
Okay. All right. So when did you hire Ms. Lorraine?
Let's see, December through February. February 6th, she was terminated.
All right. Now, you have them sign a document that I have in my possession that says that upon termination, they have to return all supplies and uniforms, et cetera, to you. But I'm kind of curious,
Yes.
how do they return the supplies if the supplies are used when they're at the venues? What do they have to give back to you? Just the supplies that they have left over?
And the uniform.
And the uniforms. Okay. All right. Now, tell me how Ms. Lorraine was terminated. What happened?
Well, I called her as I do every Thursday to give the weekend schedule. And I told her that I wanted her to work somewhere else other than where she was working. And she refused to and hung up the phone. So I called her back and told her that if she's not willing to comply, then she would be terminated. So when
She'd
are
be
you
terminated for hanging up on you? So
Okay.
yeah. But anyway, so what day of the week is it that you're calling her?
Thursday for the weekend schedule.
All right. And what day was she supposed to work?
Friday and Saturday.
Okay. But she told you in that phone call, I'm not working.
Exactly.
All right. You're suing for failure to show up at work for $93.75. If you had a day's notice that she wasn't going to show up, why didn't you just get someone else?
There was no one else available.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, Ms. Lorraine. What happened? Why were you so angry?
Because from the moment I started, I was working at the nightclub consistently, Fridays and Saturdays. And then all of a sudden, from that last encounter, he just took it away from me. Like 2 weeks straight, he just took it away from me and wanted to send me to a venue that he had sent me previously. But I only made like $20 in tips, and that didn't even cover the parking. So I was, I didn't want to go back there. but I was working this one venue that I love working, and it was Friday.
How much money would you make?
Oh, the tips were good, like $200. Yes.
Really?
It was really, really.
You know, anytime I see a bathroom attendant, I start to get agita because I don't bring my purse to the bath. I guess in a nightclub I would, but if I'm at a restaurant, I don't bring my purse to the bathroom, and then I'm like, oh, I got to remember this, and then I'm stressed, and then I leave the restaurant, and I'm in the car, you know, and then, you know, all of a sudden I'm like, I didn't tip her, and it just stresses me out so much. Does this happen to you, Douglas?
It has happened. I don't ever remember being that stressed, though.
Venmo me. It was a really, really good gig.
You've had people Venmo you? Oh my gosh!
And Cash App. One lady gave me a $200 Venmo tip.
What did you do for her that she gave you a $200 tip?
Welcome back to the People's Court. The plaintiff has a bathroom attendant service, says the defendant got fired and won't return her uniform. Let's go back into the courtroom.
I was just nice to her, looking out for her.
Awesome.
She was having a good time, so I was just looking out for her each time she came in, so she gave me a $200 tip.
That's nice. That's nice. Let me ask you a question, though. I realize that you no longer wanted to work for him, but you did sign a document that says that you would return the uniforms, I guess there's a basket or something, and whatever's the remainder of the supplies are. Why didn't you return that to him?
I had intentions on bringing it back to him, but someone broke into my car and took it.
Okay, how do you figure that if you sign a document saying you're responsible for something to someone, that you wouldn't be just because your car gets broken into? If you have a legal obligation to return something, then you're still going to be liable for it. Now, Mr. Chris, tell me, how is it you're going to prove to me that the cost of that uniform and the supplies is $250? You have receipts?
I sent you a receipt. I sent you a receipt.
You sent me one receipt. You sent me one receipt, and that receipt's for $50. Where are all the other receipts to prove up the value of the things you're saying?
And the stuff was from the 99-cent store.
Hold on, my dear. I'm talking to Mr. Chris now. Go ahead.
I do not have that receipt.
Right. Okay. So what time is it, Douglas?
It's feeling like some rough justice, Your Honor.
That's right. Some rough justice. Okay. So, Mr. Chris, you are suing for the figure of $250, but you don't have receipts that total up to that. $93.75 for failure to show up at work, because I guess that's what you would have made, but you didn't assign somebody else because you didn't have somebody else, but, you know, she gave you the day's notice. As soon as you told her, I need you to work there, she said, no, I won't. So I don't know how much more notice she could have given you. And then you're suing for $100 in damaged reputation. Explain that to me.
Well, we have a reputation for being on time and being punctual, and she ruined that.
What? Yeah, but you had a day's notice. You could have had somebody else be there. You have a counterclaim against him for $2,000 for pain and suffering. What is that about?
Because he when he took me off my assignments, you know, that really messed me up financially. It was, you know, I have 2 kids I take care of. So when he took that away from me, you know, that was a lot of pain and suffering.
Okay, but don't be silly. How does that entitle you to $2,000? That's ridiculous. All right, who's going to pay me for my pain and suffering? On your counterclaim against Mr. Chris, my verdict is 0, as you probably knew it would be. And on Mr. Chris's lawsuit against you, he is right that you're supposed to return the uniform, any leftover supplies. And, you know, I kind of guess at what that's worth. I'm going to value that at $100 and find a judgment in favor of Mr. Chris for $100.
So the plaintiff prevails, and Lorraine's going to have to give Mr. Chris $100. Lorraine, what do you think about that?
I'm a little disappointed I didn't get my counterclaim, but I'm glad it's over.
You knew you weren't going to win $2,000. Didn't you know that from the beginning?
I knew I wasn't, but you know, it's just the principle of it. I made some good tips at that location, so.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry for it. I don't guess you'll be working for Chris anymore, will you? I think it's over now since you sued him. Or no, he sued you.
Oh, he sued me. I would love to go back, but only if I can work at the same location.
All right. Well, I'll ask him. Thank you very much. Chris, let me ask you, why did you reassign her? You realized it was a big money difference for her, didn't you?
No, actually, I didn't. I gave her the assignment, and when I hired her, I explained to her that no assignment is permanent. I could need you in Anaheim, I could need you in Santa Monica, wherever I need you. That's where I'm gonna assign you.
I guess you've learned about how valuable some of these assignments are to your employees, right?
Yeah, but this is not the first time this has happened. It's happened many times before.
All right. Let me ask you a quick question. You say you cater or you help out at award shows. What kind of award shows? You're in LA, you're near Hollywood. What shows?
Yeah, yeah. We've done the SAG Awards before. We've done the Academy Awards. That's about the extent of it.
Well, good for you. Sounds like you got a good business going. All right. Well, you're going to get $100. I hope you're satisfied. You don't have any other choice,
Thank
quite
you.
frankly. You're welcome.
you.
All right. Let's join Judge Millian and her husband, Judge John, for another edition of After the Verdict.
So $200 a night in tips is a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
I guess in that business, you don't know if you're going to be at the $200 a night place one day and at the bus station the next day and maybe
Right.
not making quite as much.
Right, right. I imagine it's hard to keep employees that way when you don't know how much money's going to be coming in. But
No doubt. But here we had an example of somebody who would have got paid more probably if he had all of his receipts. And it's the people who are the type A people who save every receipt, document every little detail, people like you.
Me.
Who are the ones who are going to end up getting paid on their day in court because they're going to be able to show the damages and prove the damages.
yeah,
right?
and actually, since this is a recurrent expense for him, because he's got to buy more uniforms and whatever, it wouldn't be that hard for him to show all of the receipts.
Maybe
It wouldn't be
could have
that hard.
Could have gotten a bigger judgment.
Right, right.
Dave, this is a state-by-state issue. It varies wildly. So depending on where you live will determine what you have to do with masks.